and welcome. Dax isn't here yet, but she might show up once she hears me talking, because cats, when you're talking and there's no one else around, they think you're just talking to them. So we'll see. Augie's here. Probably to cause destruction and mayhem. Yeah, probably. Anyway, this is the first time I think I'm filming with Albert as my background buddy. I don't think he's gonna be a very good background buddy. He seems like he's just gonna go to sleep, but we'll see. The best background buddies I've had are probably the trio or Junimo and Joja. They were good background buddies. No offense, Albie, I love you. You're handsome, you're beautiful, I love you. But anyway, let's get into it. Oh, here's Dex. Do you want to do your shark fin? She said no, she's just gonna sit here. Alright. So for today's video, we're going to be talking about common rat advice I see and just my take on a lot of it. So this is mostly going to be stuff that I don't 100% agree with. Some of it is stuff that I partially agree with, partially don't. But let's just get into it. A lot of this is going to be about intros because intros are the thing that people need the most advice on a lot of the time, because it's just very complicated and you need to have an understanding of rat body language, and you also need to have an understanding of your own personal rats, and also sometimes things just are weird and get weird. I'd managed to do her shark fin a second time. Alright, so let's get into it. Now the first thing on my list for an intro advice is putting baby rats or new rats in a small cage right next to, or sometimes even in, the larger cage with your rats. And this is a common piece of advice. A lot of people try it with neutral space intros, and I don't agree with this. Neutral space intros should be done completely in a neutral space. But the thing with putting a small cage by or in a big cage is that you're going to frustrate your older or existing rats. So because they cannot interact with that rat, but they're smelling them, and they're smelling them in their territory, and they cannot establish if they're a friend or foe, which drives their instincts to an extreme where a lot of times it can cause frustration and even anger toward that new rat, to the point where when you do get them side by side, they can direct all that anger onto the rat, and it can get quite ugly quite fast. Now, there is less danger in doing the cages side by side, but again, I do not recommend this, because especially if you have a rat that's already has territorial hormonal issues, that's just going to drive them crazy, and they can even redirect that anger onto their cage mates or you. So definitely don't recommend. But really don't put a small cage into the big cage. If you do that, you're putting your baby rats in danger. You may think, well, they're in a small cage, the larger rats can't get to them. They can. First of all, toes can hang out the bars, tails can hang out the bars, and they will attack their toes and their tails. And they can quite easily lose their toes and tails by the larger rats attacking them. But not only that, the smaller cages are going to have a plastic bottom, and those can be chewed through. And if the younger rats are scared and stressed because the older rats are mobbing that cage, or if the older rats want into that cage, they can and will chew through that plastic bottom and attack each other. So it is just a danger you don't necessarily want to put onto your baby rats. So please do not put the cages side by side, and definitely do not put a small cage into the larger cage as an introduction method. If they decide to get frustrated, it's going to be bad. In that same vein, a lot of people say to neutralize their smell with vanilla extract or bathing them and then introducing them. Definitely don't bathe the rats, because it messes with their natural oils and it can dry out their skin and it can just stress them out even more. But with the vanilla, that's also not a great idea, because coating them in vanilla, again, it's not good for their skin to put vanilla on them. But not only that, neutralizing their smells is not a guarantee that they're going to get along with another rat, especially if they have territorial or hormonal issues. But once their natural smells do come in, just because their smells are combining does not mean that they're going to immediately make a cohesive mischief, and they could very quickly turn on each other and injure each other. So it is just not a good idea. Neutralizing their smells is not a good way to get them to bond. The best way to get them to bond is through interaction and establishing their hierarchy and positive reinforcement. Things like that, not making them feel stressed out or negative, or neutralizing their smells. The last piece of intro advice I want to talk about is no blood, no foul. So this is a common thing people say as intro advice for people who have struggles with their rats, is that as long as they don't injure each other to a point where another is bleeding, then you just keep going. And I highly disagree with this. If you can tell that a fight's about to break out, you could save that rat from a very severe injury by removing them immediately, not waiting for the injury to occur. Because it's not just tension slices, which are fairly easy for rats to heal very quick. They can also cut open each other's stomachs. They could remove tails and toes and eyes. They could remove ears. And like, the ears isn't that big a deal. A lot of rats get ear injuries. But like, you can prevent that if you can tell a fight's going to break out. And then there's the other factor that sometimes rats injure each other in accident, especially if like a hairless rat or a double Rex rat or an older rat with thinning fur. Rats have claws sometimes just by sleeping in a pile and like playing or like climbing off on each other, or sometimes when you see them like grab each other's face and like shove them down, that can cause injuries to rats that don't have fur to protect their skin, because a furred rat doesn't necessarily understand immediately that a hairless rat does not have that protection. Take it from someone who's had rats for a very long time. I get cut up all the time. I have no fur to protect me. I constantly have cuts on my hands, on my chest. If they fall, they immediately forget that they love me, and I become a climbing apparatus that they try to save themselves with. I have gotten clawed down my legs. I've gotten clawed on my arms. It happens. And sometimes they bleed. That doesn't automatically mean that there is a fight. So yeah, the no blood, no foul rule is one that I very frequently say is not necessarily the best optic to go by. I would just learn rat body language, figure out when a fight's going to break out. You can feel the tension of your rats when they're in intros, and you can tell when a fight's about to break out. So like, trust yourself, trust what you're seeing, trust your instincts, and if you feel like something bad's about to happen, separate them before that bad thing happens, so that they don't then also associate that rat with the bad thing, because that can happen too. Like my rat Foggy, when I tried intros with the Grabies and the Weather Girls and Baker, Foggy got attacked by Kelpie, and she would not accept Kelpie after that. She was very uninterested, scared, and it was like making things very, very stressed and uncomfortable. And I ended up not being able to get them together because of that, even after Kelpie got spayed. So like, yeah, you want to avoid the fights, because the fights can bring a lot more than just injuries. It can bring needing two separate groups if the rats then refuse to get along. Now let's talk about shy rats. People often are asking advice because their rats are shy and they don't want to cuddle. And there's a lot of things that people advise. Most of it's fine, to be honest. One thing I never really see people saying, because it's like, a lot of times, the advice is give them treats, give them baby food, talk to them, hang out with them, free roam. Sometimes they need a lot of time. And like, a lot of time people are like, I've had my new rats for like 2 months and they're still not bonding with me. And like, honestly, I hate to tell you guys this, 2 months is not that much time. Sometimes rats need a lot of time. I had Baker for a year before he would cuddle with me. And so you just kind of have to accept that some rats are like that and enjoy them in different ways. So it's like, are they cute? Are they pretty? Are they fluffy? Are they funny? Do they do silly things? It's like, and there can be so much more to your bond with your rat than them wanting to cuddle with you. And sometimes it's not even that they just need time. Sometimes rats just aren't cuddly. I had my rat Bug. She was not a cuddly rat. Her entire life, she's like, I don't want you. I don't want to be pet by you. I just want to be left alone. But I also knew that she trusted me, because at the end, when she was sick and in pain, she kept seeking me out, not for cuddles, but for comfort. So I knew she trusted me. And that trust means so much more to me than the fact that she didn't cuddle, because that was so much harder to earn than cuddle. Some rats just cuddle, but trusting you is so much more important. And I think that that's something that you should be striving for above cuddly rats. A couple of things to keep in mind. A lot of people say do the confidence method, which is just basically forcing them to like you by constantly handling them. And I don't really like this because, again, it can violate their trust and it can violate their boundaries. It's like a cat. If you're constantly violating a cat's boundaries and making them feel stressed out, they're not going to like you. It's the same with a rat. If you're constantly violating their boundaries and making them stressed out and uncomfortable, they're not going to just decide, okay, at some point I'm fine with this. They're just not going to like you. So, give them space. You can, yes, absolutely give them treats, absolutely free roam them, absolutely do all of the things people suggest. But don't push it to the point where your rat's stressed when they see you. Just give them time. That is the best advice I can give, is like, you can keep going and going and going, but at the end of the day, they're just going to need some time sometimes. Next, I want to talk about red-eyed rats, which is something I talk about a lot. Because I love red-eyed rats. I currently have 3. I have Weaver, I have Hera, and I have Albert. And specifically what I want to talk about is a lot of time when people see a red-eyed rat reacting a certain way, they immediately say, oh, they have red eyes, their eyesight's not great, and that's why they're behaving this way. And that is not great advice. First of all, of my red-eyed rats, I've had a lot. The most I've had at one time, I think, is like 8. I've had a lot of red-eyed rats, and my red-eyed rats never really reacted to me differently than my black-eyed rats. They never really freaked out or panicked or anything like that, because all rats have poor eyesight, and while red-eyed rats may have worse eyesight, it's not so significant that it's going to be that different from a black-eyed rat's eyesight. In fact, my rats that had the worst eyesight were like dark ruby eyes, not even like Albert's pink eyes or Hera's she has like, they're not dark ruby, I'd still call them ruby, or Weaver has red eyes. There's like different shades, but their eyesight's never really affected how they behave toward me. And I've had aggressive red-eyed rats, but they weren't aggressive toward me, they were rat aggressive. It's not actually that common in the grand scheme of things for a rat to be human aggressive. They can be, absolutely. I'm not saying that it's rare or that you're doing anything wrong. They can absolutely be human aggressive. But it is way more common for them to be rat aggressive than human aggressive. So when people say this about red-eyed rats, it's like, yeah, they may have worse eyesight, but that's not why they're acting like that. There is a different reason for why your red-eyed rat is behaving the way they are. And the most likely reasons are, but also a lot of time it is hormonal. It's the same things that affect other rats, but because they have red eyes, people automatically dismiss their behavior as, oh, that's just a red-eyed rat. And that is not fair to that rat. You could be ignoring a serious health issue because they have red eyes. And aggression can be from hormones or from pain or discomfort or fear. Fear is not inherently because they have poor eyesight. Again, rats are going to use their other senses to navigate way more than their eyesight because they don't have very good eyesight to begin with. So if you have a red-eyed rat that is like biting you, for example, is it hormones? Is it a fear behavior? Is it being territorial over their cage space? Because cage aggression is the thing, and a lot of times rats that have cage aggression will bite you when they're in the cage, but not outside the cage. All of these things can be worked on. You can train them with cage aggression. You might not be able to train it out, but you can help it. Hormones can be taken care of. If they are in some kind of physical pain, they need to go to the vet. Don't just dismiss their behavior as, oh, they're just a red-eyed rat and that's how they behave. And lastly, we're going to talk about one thing that I've seen a lot lately that has always irritated me. And that's this notion that certain rats are pet quality and certain ones are not. And I hate this. I hate when people say this. So all fancy rats are domesticated, which means they are reliant on people. They can form bonds with people. They can trust people. Inherently, their instinct is going to be to trust us and want to be around us. Even if they're scared and they're not acting like they trust us, they still want to be around people. That is what domestication means. That is why you don't see like stray cats in the woods. You see them down the street by the gas station. The same with dogs, is you're going to see stray dogs around people because they have been bred to trust people. It's the same with pigeons. The reason they hang out around people is because they are domesticated and want to be around people. But for some reason, actually I know the exact reason, but with rats, people will constantly be like, that's not a pet quality rat, that is a feeder rat. And it's because they want to obviously send this rat off to be snake food. This is not necessarily a problem in other countries because, to my knowledge, a lot of other countries have banned live feeding of rats. But in the States, it is a big thing. And it is something that's always bothered me because people use it as an excuse to treat rats terribly. I've seen people release rats and be like, well, it wasn't a pet quality rat, it's just a feeder rat. And there's a lot of reasons why this bothers me. It, for one, helps promote this idea that these rats deserve to die. because they aren't pet quality, because they were bred to be food. And I've seen breeders, because it's always breeders. One thing to keep in mind is it's going to be breeders and people who have been indoctrinated into this belief who say this, because they're trying to sell you a rat. Like, think about it. Why would a breeder say that a certain animal is not pet quality unless they want you to buy their pet quality version of that animal? It's bullshit, guys. Like, I've seen them be like, oh, well, you know, you can tame down a feeder rat with a lot of time. And it's just like, I've had feeder rats and it took no time because they're a domesticated species. It did not take very much time at all. My worst rats were all breeder rats, actually. And I feel like this kind of thought process, it's leaching into a lot of different spaces in the animal community of like breeder animals are so far superior to rescue animals because they have been deliberately bred. And it bothers me. Like, you're allowed to pick a breeder over a rescue. That is within your right as a person who wants a pet. No one's saying you cannot do that. But it bothers me when people act like rescue animals are so far beneath quality. And like Albert is from a lab. He's a rescue and he's the sweetest boy on the planet. And I've had breeder rats that have had a lot of problems, including hormonal aggression, including health issues, including not really being affectionate with me. And I'm fine with that because I can accept a rat for who they are. But a lot of people use this as an excuse of like, well, I want a good rat. And it's just like, well, a breeder doesn't necessarily have a good rat. And a qualified rescue, if you're new to rats, well, is not going to give you a rat that is known for biting and like aggression. They're going to give you a rat that they think will help promote your love of rats. Now, do I think you should go to a feeder bin and get rats? Not necessarily. It's harder for me to say don't do that, considering otherwise those animals are going to be snake food. And they're going to be sold no matter what you do. So it's harder for me to say don't go to a feeder bin over like don't go to a pet store. But the feeder bin rats do tend to have a lot of health problems. They do tend to come to pregnant or miss sexed or what have you. They don't tend to live very long. And for your protection and for your mental health, I don't think you should get feeder rats. But I'm not going to say that they're not going to love you. I'm not going to say you're not going to love them. The rats are never the problem. The reason I don't say get rats from pet stores is because the industry is awful to these animals. They treat them so horribly, and it's just promoting a cycle of abuse over and over and over again. The reason I say don't get feeder rats is because they're not going to be healthy, and they're going to be pregnant, and they're going to be missexed, and they're probably going to die young, and all of that is things that are going to take a toll on you as an owner. It's never because of the rats. The rats themselves are fine. You can have an extremely affectionate feeder rat or an extremely affectionate rescue or extremely affectionate pet store rat, and you can have an extremely affectionate breeder rat and not know the difference. I've had rats from every place. I've gotten rehomes, I've gotten rescues, I've gotten feeder rats, I've gotten pet store rats, I've gotten breeder rats. And they are basically like temperament-wise, there's not a lot of difference if I'm being honest. They're very sweet. Like, Weaver and Doyle are super sweet. I got them from a breeder. They were immediately super duper affectionate. So is he. So is Barber. Baker took a long time to warm up to me, but I think that was trauma on his part, that poor boy. He was a rescue, but it's like, I've also, like, Bug was from a breeder. She didn't care for me at all. You can't predict how a rat's gonna be. You just can't. So just go with your conscience on where to get them, but don't let people propagandize you into thinking that a rescue rat is less than a breeder rat in any way, because they aren't. They are still an animal that deserves love and care and consideration. All right, that's going to be it for this video. I hope these are some topics that interested you, and if they did, well, you know what to do. All the fun stuff down below. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!